Hello everybody, welcome back. And today we're gonna have a killer clowns from outer space. This is an insane game. An insane game in the same old expansion. Everybody knows this game, those type of games where you need to hide from any kind of maniac who are going to find you and kill you and etc. But anyways, you know, this shit never gets too old. If you had asked me to create a bingo card with a horror franchise that would be converted into asymmetrical multiplayer games, Killer Clowns from the Outer Space probably won't have featured on it. Despite the genre's growing in popularity over the years, the wacky horror and the image of the clown is still hears the shit out from some people, and it's kind of different type of fear. But thankfully, the television games had more faith in the ability to create an absorbing multiplayer experience from such niche license than I did, and what they produced basically in Killer for Clowns from the outer space, well, this game actually something pretty special. If you have played any of numerous asymmetrical horror titles that have emerged in recent years, you probably have a good idea of how it's going to play it out. Well, ultimate goal being to either escape or slaughter the enemy depending on which side of the equation on you land on. It's adamantly familiar setup, and the closest comparison is easily Friday the 13th, the game, also developed by Alponic. The comparison are most apparent while the playing is human, where you're going to skulk around the map, scoping out escape routes and looking in preparation for eventual escape, all while trying to avoid the clutches of titular killer clowns. The biggest definitor here is the numbers of the game, with there being up to 7 humans and 3 clowns in a fully populated lobby. I didn't worry initially this would skew the balance too far in favor of the humans, and to create extent, I think it does. However, it absolutely suits the sillier, more laid-back tone that the Killer Clowns from Outer Space is trying to strike. Upping the potential body count automatically makes the stakes feel less high than Friday the 13th, where it was much easier to find yourself at the mercy of the relentless Jason player, given he had a few targets. Here, despite there also being additions predators, I found it much easier to relax into the routine of sneaking around, lifting the keys and held items, safe in the knowledge that the clowns had noisier distraction to hunt down across the other side of the map. This is not to say that playing as a human is completely absent of tension. While I generally found it easier to remain hidden as the result of the increase in scale, when I did make a little too much noise and found myself becoming the target of 3 demented circus freaks, things could feel downright hopeless at times. Then there are the always limit on the escapes, many of which can only facilitate the escapes of several players, which leads to some hilariously tense moments as you find yourself arguing with your so-called teammates about who gets the last spot in the boat. The more relaxed atmosphere also extends to playing as a clown. While it all vented, the team of clowns can successfully take all the 7 human opponents more often than not. The games I played ended in a fairly even split that saw several humans successfully killed with the remainder escaping. Again, the stakes just feel lower as forced to focus your attention on certain opponents, which naturally provides opportunities for others to take advantage of the chaos. It doesn't lack the competitive edge of similar titles initially, but once you learn to recalibrate your expectations and focus on smaller victories in each encounter, playing the perfect game doesn't matter as much as you will learn to reveal in the chaos that in the moment-to-moment gameplay, the Killer Clowns from the Outer Space is the very interesting and nice game. Besides the increased player count, Killer from Clowns, did you get it? No, not Killer from Clowns. Killer Clowns from Outer Space also does a great job of standing out of the pack with some neat additions to bring a great amount of variety to each match. Clowns, for example, can focus on killing humans, sure. However, you can also choose to spend your time collecting cotton candy cocoons to power generators across the map. Initially, I found these to be a bit of unnecessary destruction, but soon they become a vital part of the puzzle. Each match presents with a generous, sprawling AI-controlled enemies that can patrol the map and alert you to the position of human players. Humans can also be turned into cotton candy cocoons, which can then be utilized to trigger a clone apocalypse, a game-ending move that seems in the map coated in cotton candy, killing anyone unlucky enough to have not escaped. Playing as a human is more traditional experience throughout, not without some noteworthy differences. The key difference here has definitely been how much aggression pays off when playing as a human. Whereas in the asymmetrical titles there is typically little value in standing your ground. Killer Clowns from the Other Space instead litters the map with powerful weapons that are extremely capable of putting down the clowns and buying some much needed breathing room. It forces you to rethink how you approach each map, as stealth and running, whilst still powerful tactics, are no longer the only viable option when you find yourself on the wrong end of the insane clown pose. What also needs to be called out is the genius way in which the developers have handled players' death here. A huge problem is asymmetrical horror games that date has been the downtime. Your face show being killed off. Rather cleverly, the developers have combated by allowing the players to have been talked out to engage with the minigames as they watch the action to continue. Success in this case is not only get the opportunity to pick from the selection of useful items to give to a player, but still pick of the action. More often than not, these items amount to health consumables, but every now and then you'll get an opportunity to bless someone with a game-changing item, such as a key to escape route. It's honestly a game changer, and while the minigame selection could do with some more variety, I always felt compelled to hang around until the end of the match, knowing that I could still play a huge part in how the remainder of Encoder plays out. As much as I enjoy the Killer Clowns from the Outer Space, it isn't without the faults. By far my biggest gripe is how lacking the player experience is, which is contributed to by a couple of factors. Well, firstly, I think the developers really need to take a piece of progression and unlocks. There is a typical leveling process used here with more character options and loadout features opening up as you level, but I found the leveling process to be weirdly slow, leading to it taking quite a while to really uncover just how much customization there is. Clowns in particular suffer from this, with the initial suite of teleportation abilities and bog standard cotton candy guns feeling quite underwhelming compared to what comes later down the line. It's not a deal breaker, and completionists will have plenty to work towards, but new players will potentially feel underwhelmed with the options that are initially available. Well, then 3 is the fact that Killer Clowns from the Outer Space is completely lacking any sort of interactive tutorial, a huge issue when the escape routes. Clown apocalypse mechanics, the usage of the generators are unlikely anything the genre has seen before. There are text-based tutorials accessible throughout the main menu that do an okay job for explaining the restrictions around escaping and how the generators impact the match, but how do we sell this game to Zoomers? They don't like long reads, right? Anyway, it took me a good few hours before I felt confident playing as both the clown and the humans. Now guess how much the Zoomers will lose their time. Nah. It took me again good few hours. And with many of my early matches boiling down into the frustrating affairs due to the ambition surrounding a lot of what Killer Clown from Outer Space brings to the table. So, Killer Crowns from Outer Space is an absolutely blast and asymmetrical horror title that leans brilliantly into the ridiculous source material by creating an experience that prioritizes chaos over being overly competitive. The new player experience may not be the most welcoming, but it's worth preserving throughout the initial stretch, as what the Outpawning has created is an entry to the genre that takes some of the best elements from the studio work while putting an original spin on tried and tested mechanics. In this genre, this has arguably become oversaturated. This is a video game that has done the unthinkable by making Killer Crowns from Outer Space seem relevant again in 2024. Here is a hoping and relatively niche nature of the IP doesn't turn new players away, as with the right support, this title I cannot wait to dedicate many more hours to going forward. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. Peace.